All right, so now that we've got this quarter bit taken care of, we want to go ahead and then build in more detail. Right off the bat, normally what I would go ahead and do is I would use the symmetry tool to get myself going in the right direction here to make the final piece. But before I do that, I want to actually do some work on the actual object itself, incorporate more of the actual structure of the map that we've added with the trim sheets and take it a little bit further. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go ahead and just make instances that I'll attach later. And now with that means I can still focus on one and go on with the rest of the adventure. So now I can just work on one corner and it'll reflect on the rest of them as long as I keep my instance active and going forward. So we'll just be conscientious of using that properly. So what I'm going to do is start working with the edges over here on this big piece and start adding in some trim detail that matches this little do jobber right there. So we'll go ahead and use the connect options. One, slide it down. I want to use two lines, but I'm going to use one right now and chamfer it so that I can get more action down the road. I'm going to hit plus. And I want to switch directions and go over here. Hit plus. Double click there. Again, double change. Oh. Let's actually undo that selection set and go here. So this now gives us a little bit more leeway in what we can do with our object. We can start adding in some nice little interesting details. Sliding up a little bit more structure here. We can also adding these lines in here. What else we can do? What I'm going to do here is take that edge. And I think that one. And we're going to chamfer them just oh so slightly. Awesome. This gives us a little bit of room to add some depth and extra structure to our scene here. A little more. And repeat the process over here. So we'll just go forward and actually add more detail as you need it. If I want to make this an actual important piece of, like, say, a town square or a village center, then I'm going to spend some time on actually building this asset out and getting it constructed effectively, whether it's high poly or low poly, because even the low poly is going to want some extra details. Oops, I want to connect that you're going to need to build in there one way or another. this is going to be tricky. So what I'm going to do, I want to scale it into the center. So here's another effective tool you can use to look at using angles. So I'm going to change our pivot, working pivot, to the center of our screen. So this is kind of frustrating. So what I can do here, instead of view, change it to I think the world. And now I can scale this in the X and the Y. And that'll bring those little wall pieces up a little bit more into the structure so we can get a little more design out of it. Oh, just a little bit. Cool. Let's use this guy. Oh, we can't. Well, actually, yeah. I'll use. Yeah, that's gonna be frustrating. And since we're just chamfering and connecting across the face, the UVs are staying quite nice. And if I Alt Q and go into here and just look at the actual high poly, we're starting to see some actual details in here. We're going to start getting some more controls on smoothing groups and things of that nature. So I'll encourage you to go forward with this system so that you can create more out of your objects. So now, one of the things we can do, here's my blue actions. I'll just slide these over. Plus 3, 2, slide that there. So we can get these things working together a little more quickly. Take that for right now. Let's go ahead and collapse that down. Now I want to keep the instance, and I've got an unwrap on here, and I need to just bake it into my geometry so I can keep going with what I'm doing. I'm going to right click and collapse to. This will allow us to keep our instance, so keep that in mind. It's supposed to be a little tricky. I'll do some fun stuff. It's going to take a little more thought process to get done. Now if you want to adjust the lines, so I want to move this line up here, so make sure you select them all. Turn on preserve UVs, and you can slide them up right where you need them to be. Turn it off when you're done now. Be sure to do that. So what I'm going to do now is that scale trick. Go scale. Just a little bit. Alright. And just in a few short steps, being able to actually add a lot more detail to our object using the trim sheets as just a framework to add more detail, right? So try those things out and see if you can take this a little bit further. You're going to be surprised on what you can do. The only thing that I would suggest after this is to use to set up the UVs, and that will be a little tricky. I will make another video for that here in a little bit.